Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Mohan Priya. You're watching Updates at Noon. Making the headlines today, Sabah and Sarawak preparing for Indonesia's capital shift. Foreign Ministry to continue efforts in curbing Islamophobia. The South Kelantan Development Authority, or KESEDA, has the potential to become a major domestic food producer through the KESEDA Food Valley program to tackle the food security issue and boost the production of agriculture and food in the country. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said KESEDA's efforts in using over 900 hectares of land for new crops in Gua Musang should become the new benchmark for government agencies. Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid, who is also Rural and Regional Development Minister, said three main projects introduced by KESEDA under the program are the new cash crop, beef cattle farming and rural agrotech.
Pada hemat saya, jumlah keluasan tanah, jumlah ternakan, jumlah keberhasilan ini harus dipertingkatkan dengan berganda-ganda bagi menyumbang untuk keterjaminan makanan di negara ini keseluruhannya. Dan ini juga yang saya telah arahkan untuk lain-lain agensi di bawah KKDW.
A study on agriculture development is underway and is expected to be completed by the middle of this year. And KESEDA is also working on several strategic collaborations with the industry players. In 2022, KESEDA spent 900,000 ringgit through its subsidiary KESEDA Dagang Sdn Bhd to start off beef cattle farming, an effort that began in 2020. The shifting of Indonesia's capital to Kalimantan, neighbouring Sabah and Sarawak, will require both regions to prepare themselves, especially in the development of the borders and exploring bilateral business-to-business opportunities. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof said there needs to be focus on developmental efforts at the border areas. This includes upgrading the customs, immigration and quarantine complexes along the main border between Sabah, Sarawak and Kalimantan. Datuk Seri Fadilah, who is also Plantations and Commodities Minister, said other aspects of focus include exploring B2B opportunities and cross-border economic interactions that can fulfill the needs of both countries. He cited Sarawak as an example, saying that thanks to good relations, the region had exported electricity to West Kalimantan since several years ago and was given the opportunity to construct a hydroelectric dam in the country. Meanwhile, he said Malaysia and Indonesia could jointly plan to develop a railway network at the border of Sarawak and Kalimantan to transport goods from Kalimantan to Bintulu and utilize its port facilities. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir said his ministry will continuously strive to play an active role in curbing Islamophobia. He said Malaysia Madani values will be spread through the international platforms such as the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, and joint efforts with Islamic neighbours including Indonesia and Brunei.
There must be a collective global efforts to unite Muslim countries, international organizations, NGOs, Islamic scholars, and individuals. Among the concrete steps taken by some countries to combat Islamophobia is passing legislation that penalize hate speech and discrimination against Islam. However, our efforts must not be limited to only this scope. Knowing that Islamophobia is rooted in misinformation, we must continue to promote understanding and celebration of diversity, challenge hate crimes, and take steps to ensure that the right and dignity of all people are respected.
He said this in his keynote address at the Islamophobia International Forum, a meaningful engagement through Madani discourse in Putrajaya today. 600 students in Johor higher education institutions have the opportunity to delve into entrepreneurship through the Young Entrepreneurs Program PUM 2023. They will be given guidance on the aid and incentives that they need before they can get their hands onto the entrepreneur field. Minister of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living, Dato' Sri Salahuddin Ayub, said 3 groups of PUM 2023 were targeted to be formed. One of them would be done via online for participants from Perak, while the remaining 2 will be in physical form in Johor and Sabah.
Kita akan buat juga di tempat-tempat yang lain, di politeknik yang lain, untuk kita mendedahkan mereka tentang pelbagai insentif dan juga program-program yang dianjurkan oleh pihak SSM. Pelajar-pelajar yang telah pun dibimbing untuk insya-Allah mereka menjadi usahawan. Jadi saya rasa di negeri yang lain kita akan terus lakukan, dan penyertaan itu saya rasa lebih kuranglah dengan apa yang kita buat di Johor ini.
He said this after officiating the Johor Level PUM 2023 at Polytechnic Ibrahim Sultan, Johor Bahru. There will be no more restrictions imposed on pilgrims who are at the Holy Land of Mecca. The Saudi Arabian Ministry of Hajj and Umrah stated that they will no longer be limiting the number of rites that may be conducted during the pilgrimage. Pilgrims, however, are still subjected to the appointment system to partake in the acts of worship. As such, usage of mobile applications to schedule an appointment is still continued. The removal of the limit to the number of people who can perform Umrah or smaller pilgrimage in the kingdom is the latest move of restriction relaxation done by Saudi Arabia. Previously, the kingdom has allowed for the extension of Umrah visa validity from 30 to 90 days. Furthermore, visitors, tourists and workers who enter the kingdom on a visit, tourism or labour visas can perform Umrah and alter the mode of transportation used to leave the nation from the one used to enter Saudi Arabia. Pilgrims are urged to adhere to the dates given in their licenses in order to conduct the rituals at Makkah's Grand Mosque. The Royal Malaysia Police PDRM said it had acted within the law when arresting 2 students of an alleged rant on the history paper of the Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia SPM examination. Hulu Selangor District Police Chief Superintendent Sufian Abdullah said the 2 18-year-old students were placed under remand to facilitate investigations under Section 14 of the Minor Offences Act 1955 and Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1988. The 2-day remand order against both students was to have their statements recorded and to fact-check with related parties, including the contents of the mobile phone, and to get a disciplinary report from the school. Satisfied with the progress of investigations, both students were released on police bail. Sufian said this in response to a statement by Lawyers of Liberty which criticised police action in arresting the 2 students on Friday. He added that the investigation papers would be completed and referred to the Selangor Deputy Public Prosecutor. It was reported that police had arrested 2 teenagers after receiving a report from a 53-year-old female teacher on Friday in connection with a viral video showing a male student in school uniform venting his anger over the SPM history paper. The 5-day Pasir Gudang World Kite Festival at Bukit Layang-Layang is able to strengthen the local economies. Johor Menteri Besar Dato' On Hafiz Ghazi said the event will be empowered continuously as one of the tourist attractions by reeling in about 300,000 visitors with the participation of guests from 40 countries. The presence of both foreign and local tourists is expected to lead to economic spillover towards 350 small and medium entrepreneurs with a sales value of over 23,000 ringgit. Meanwhile, Malaysian Kite Flyers Council President Dato' A. Rahim Nin said the festival this time around managed to attract 700 local kite flyers and 109 international participants.
Sebagai tarikan kepada pelancong tempatan dan pelancong antarabangsa, dan dalam masa yang sama limpahan daripada festival ini sebenarnya memberi peluang kepada lebih 350 pengusaha-pengusaha kecil untuk membuka gerai dan mereka dapat menjual barang-barang mereka.
He was met at the officiation of the Pasir Gudang World Kite Festival in Bukit Layang-Layang, Johor. Various interesting activities were held in conjunction with the festival, the highlight of which was the simultaneous flying of 25 Malaysian traditional kites by international participants, which entered the Malaysia Book of Records. Up next in the foreign front, 3 arrested after dismembered body found in fridge. Stay tuned.
The number of malicious and false statements spread by SMS or social media platforms have become too widespread. The public is advised to be careful and not fall for such ploys and sharing or forwarding such messages. Remember that spreading fake news is an offence under Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998. This carries the penalty of a fine not exceeding 50,000 ringgit or up to 1 year imprisonment or both upon conviction.
Welcome back. Israeli settlers attacked Palestinian homes late on Sunday in Hawara near the occupied West Bank city of Nablus after a gunman, allegedly a Palestinian, killed 2 Israeli brothers as they were driving. 1 Palestinian was killed during the attacks by the settlers on houses and cars. Settlers blocked a street in Hawara, lighting fires and throwing stones towards Palestinian homes. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the shooting of the Israeli brothers, which came as Israeli and Palestinian officials met in Jordan to discuss ways of lowering tensions. Israel's military said the gunman came to a junction and opened fire towards an Israeli vehicle. It said the casualties near Hawara, an area that sees regular friction between Palestinians and settlers. Ghazan Douglas, an official in charge of the anti-settlement activities, said several Palestinian houses and 15 cars had been set on fire after the attack. A 37-year-old Palestinian was shot dead by an Israeli settler. The Israeli military, which was operating in the area, did not have immediate comment. An Australian archaeologist and 2 Papua New Guinea researchers held for a week by 20 armed men in a remote part of the Pacific Island nation were released on Sunday. Professor Bryce Barker and doctoral student Tepsi Benny from the University of Southern Queensland and Papua New Guinea National Museum researcher Jemina Haro were released after a ransom payment. Alphonse Seyaka, an official with the government of Mount Bosavi, where the 3 were held in rugged terrain, the group's captors remain at large. He said as soon as soldiers exchanged money for the hostages, the captors ran away into the bush. Barker's team was investigating whether Papua New Guinea provided the bridge for the first human migration to Australia tens of thousands of years ago. The remote village of Fogomayu in the Mount Bosavi region in Hela province is part of the collapsed cone of an extinct volcano. The group was captured on 19th February in Fogomayu village and was allegedly taken 10 kilometers into the bush. Hong Kong police on Sunday arrested 3 people in connection with the murder of a 28-year-old model, Abby Choi, whose legs were found in a refrigerator in a house on the city's outskirts, along with tools used to dismember bodies. The police said they also found a meat slicer and an electric saw at the scene in the financial hub's rural Tai Po district. The gruesome murder of local influencer Choi, who appeared on the digital cover of L'Officiel Monaco fashion magazine last week, has gripped local tabloids as authorities search for the remaining parts of her body, including with drones and an abseiling team. Police said they have charged 2 men aged 31 and 65 jointly with 1 count of murder and a 63-year-old woman with 1 count of perverting the course of justice. They are set to appear in a local court today. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un kicked off a meeting of ruling Workers' Party of Korea WPK officials to discuss improving the country's economy and agricultural sector as fears of food shortages and a humanitarian crisis grow. State news agency KCNA reported Kim oversaw the 7th enlarged plenary meeting of the 8th Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, which kicked off yesterday and is still ongoing as it reviewed rural development projects. International experts say food insecurity has worsened in the isolated nation amid COVID-19 lockdowns and strict international sanctions over North Korea's nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs. Earlier this month, South Korea said the North Korean food situation appears to have deteriorated. Meanwhile, the US-based 38 North program, which monitors North Korea, said last month in a report that food availability has likely fallen below the bare minimum with regards to human needs, with food insecurity at its worst since the famines of the 1990s. North Korea is under strict international sanctions over its nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs, and in recent years, its limited border trade was virtually choked off by self-imposed lockdowns aimed at preventing COVID-19. Elsewhere, tens of thousands of Mexicans protested on Sunday against an electoral reform approved by the ruling party-controlled Congress that is widely perceived as an attack on democracy ahead of 2024 presidential polls. Political and civic organizations joined forces for the show of discontent, gathering on Mexico City's main square, Zocalo, and in other cities. Dressed in white and pink, the colours of the National Electoral Institute, protesters denounced the majority move by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's backers to reduce the independent body's size and budget. A bill the INE says will tarnish the credibility of elections was approved in the Senate Wednesday by 72 votes in favour to 50 against. The legislation must now be enacted by the leftist president who championed the change. Former Supreme Court Justice Juan Ramon Cosio, in an address to protesters Sunday, accused López Obrador of seeking to appropriate the electoral system. The bill is a watered-down version of a more radical reform that López Obrador originally sought, which had sparked mass street protests against a perceived attack on the INE, designed to safeguard elections from political tampering. The polling agency says the bill, even the new version, endangered the electoral process. It claims the changes would eliminate 85% of its career staff and scrap 300 district boards, crucial to organizing elections for the country's 93 million voters. The measure, says the INE, would limit its ability to monitor election propaganda or to sanction public officials for transgressions. Soldiers were forced to intervene after 15 men pretending to be electoral officials stormed a voting collation centre in the Alimosho neighbourhood of Lagos, attacking party agents with knives and sticks yesterday. Labour Party's Ward Secretary Jacob Sulaiman said the men just came and started pulling out daggers and hitting everyone that are Labour Party agents. There were scattered violent incidents on Saturday, though not on the scale seen in previous elections in the country of over 200 million people. The presidential vote is expected to be the closest in Nigeria's history, with candidates from two parties that have alternated power since the end of army rule in 1999 facing an unusually strong challenge from a minor party nominee popular among young voters. Buhari, a retired army general, is stepping down after serving the maximum 8 years allowed by the Constitution, but failing to deliver on his pledge to bring back order and security across Nigeria, Africa's top oil-producing country. The Peruvian National Police found a mummy on Saturday inside a delivery man's cooler bag. Local media reported the discovery of the ancient artifact after police saw a group of men drinking in a street in the southern city of Puno. In the group was Julio Cesar, who said the mummy, which he calls Juanita, had belonged to his family for 30 years after talks to donate the piece to the Museum of Puno failed.
Mi cuarto, duerme conmigo.
También.
Sí, sí. O sea, esta es mi cama, mi televisor y después está, o sea, la Juanita. Por eso yo la cuido, la mantengo.
Claro.
O sea, es como decir, perdóname la palabra, es como mi novia espiritual.
The case is now being investigated by the prosecutor's office. Peru, home to the iconic Machu Picchu, has hundreds of archaeological sites from cultures that developed before and after the Inca Empire, which dominated the southern part of South America 500 years ago. Coming up in sports, Manchester United ended 6 years major trophy drought. Stay with us.
Liga Hoki TNB 2023 memburu piala berprestij di Arena Hoki Negara. Saksikan juga secara pensterima langsung di RTM Klik kejohanan Liga Hoki TNB 2023 eksklusif hanya di RTM.
Renovating or upgrading existing futsal court facilities is among the main initiatives to be considered by the Ministry of Youth and Sports through allocations from the government in the 2023 budget. Its Deputy Minister Adam Adli Abdul Halim said his office needed some time to identify the affected sports facilities to ensure they are easily accessible not only to national athletes but also to the general public.
Dia fasiliti baru ni bagi saya bukan keperluan sekarang. Yang paling mustahak adalah memperbaiki fasiliti-fasiliti sedia supaya boleh dimanfaatkan secara menyeluruh.
He said this to reporters after attending the opening ceremony of the 2023 Malaysia Premier Futsal League (MPFL) at the Shah Alam National Sports Complex yesterday. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, when tabling the budget 2023 on Friday, announced that the government has provided an allocation amounting to 324 million ringgit to improve training programs and sports facilities for the benefit of all athletes, including para-athletes. And on to football news. Manchester United clinched their first major trophy for 6 years in a ruthless 2-0 win against Newcastle in the League Cup final at Wembley this morning. A header by Casemiro, followed by an own goal by Sven Botman late in the first half, silenced the hordes of Newcastle fans who flocked to the capital full of optimism. Much of the build-up was about Newcastle's first appearance in a major final since 1999 and an uptick in their fortunes instigated by Eddie Howe since 2021 Saudi Arabia-led takeover. But Erik ten Hag's resurgent United side showed them how far they still need to go as they claim the club's first trophy since winning the Europa League under Jose Mourinho in 2017, their longest wait for silverware since 1983.
We not only hoping, but to know that it's worth to invest, to know that it's worth to suffer and to sacrifice, and to know that you have to give every day your best to celebrate. And it's all about that. It's about glory and honor. And if you want to prove something, if you want to win something, you have to do it. And otherwise, you don't get it because no one is to bring you something in top football.
There was little between the sides in a scrappy first half, but the English season's first silverware was effectively decided in the space of 6 minutes towards half-time. Newcastle was stunned when Brazilian Casemiro met a superb Luke Shaw free kick in the 33rd minute to head past Loris Karius. 6 minutes later, Newcastle were left totally deflated when the in-form Marcus Rashford was played in down on the left and his shot deflected over a helpless Karius for what initially appeared to be his 17th goal since the World Cup. However, it was credited to the unfortunate Botman. United, who beat Barcelona in midweek to reach the last 16 of the Europa League and are still in contention in the Premier League title race, were not at their best, but managed the game expertly once they got their noses in front. And on to the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich struck 3 times in a punishing first half to ease past Union Berlin 3-0 to confirm their status as title favourites and leave the Berliners, following their first league loss of the year, 3 points behind. Bayern successfully bounced back from last week's loss to Borussia Mönchengladbach, delivering us. In ITF's World Tennis Tour Juniors, Darshan Suresh Kumar's hopes of winning the men's singles title was dashed after he was beaten 3-6, 4-6 to Fan Mingmeng from China in the final. Darshan started off the match brightly. However, by the mid of first set action, the tide started to change. Darshan seemed to lose his focus, thus allowing his opponent to completely dominate the first set with 6-3 victory. In the second set, the Malaysian put on a more energetic display to fend off Fan Ming's fiery attacks. This, however, was not enough to stop Fan Ming from securing the set and crowned as the champion. Darshan will next participate in the first leg of the national circuit beginning 8th March and also expected to take part in the higher tier J300 Sarawak event next month. Moving on to Open 13 province, Hubert Hurkacz was not without his vulnerable moments in the final, yet the top seed repeatedly defied Marseille local Benjamin Bonzi and the wishes of a vocal home crowd with a stunning serving display to lift the title at the indoor ATP 250. The world number 11 Hurkacz secured a 6-3, 7-6 victory against Bonzi, in which he sent down 19 aces and won 93% of the points behind his first delivery. Even when under pressure, the Pole was relentless with his power and accuracy on serve. Bonzi had the home fans on their feet when he converted his first breakpoint of the match to reduce in Mets. He now holds a 6-1 record in tour-level finals. In our top story today, Sabah and Sarawak preparing for Indonesia's capital shift by focusing developments at border areas. Don't forget to tune in to News at 10 tonight for the latest updates available on saluran Berita RTM, or you can stream it live on RTM Click's website and mobile app in case you missed it. You can also rewatch it on Berita RTM's YouTube channel. I'm Mohana Priya. Thank you for your company.